are you allowed to talk about sales numbers? I mean, how were you doing? How many thousands of dollars could you sell in a month of shades when you were doing this?
My highest month was 290,000.
300 grand in shades.
Yep.
So Dave, I'm thrilled that you're here today. How long is the drive in from where you are to us in the studio?
About 45 minutes. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, so the Villages is really that close? Because I think that's where you...
I live in Mount Dora, so I was coming from Mount Dora. But that's
still,
about
it's
an hour
out there.
and 20 minutes from here, the Villages is. So.
Yeah, and so before we go too deep, because I want to go back. We're gonna take the time machine at least 5 years, but I'm thinking 5-10 to around the time that we met, because I think there's some stuff there and some seeds that were sown in your career that are making what you're doing now rock. Okay. But in short, you own a business, so let's just talk about what you do on a day-to-day now.
Sure. Well, I own a business called Shade Masters USA. We offer shade solutions, window treatment, such as roll down shades. We also have a retractable system that goes on the outside of lanais. We offer the Hunter Douglas line, which we are a authorized dealer for Hunter Douglas. So anything from your interior decorations, such as pirouettes, silhouettes, banded shades, all kinds of good stuff that they offer. We also offer another company called Universal, which they're Universal custom windows, and they do just roller shades. They got quite a few things too. Shutters. They also offer a good line of shutters that we use. So that's us.
Well, and it sounded like you're either making or modifying product on site here. Do you classify as a U.S. manufacturer?
So we do manufacture some of our shades. It's more of our retractable shades, and what we do is I don't actually order or cut the bolt of fabric. The bolt of fabric comes to us. We order the aluminum. I don't want to call it raw because it is extruded in certain ways for us, but we cut it down. We basically build our whole retractable system, and then we put the bolt. It really is just fabric that shows up for us. I mean, we have tubes that are this much in diameter and 24, 26 foot long. So
wow. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's additive manufacturing. You're taking products and putting them together and making a different product that is either on spec or fitting somebody's prepaid specs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We have the design for Finitex that allows us to build their system for them. I mean, Finitex, I got to say, is probably one of the best retractable shade systems I've ever seen. I've done lots of research on different systems out there. They just blow my mind when it comes to product that they have. So that's why we like their system.
Cool. All right. So now we know that you are the proud owner of Shade Masters USA, and we're going to spend a little bit more time on that. But when I met you, you were wearing sneakers out like nobody's business. So and I'll just embellish a little bit here. So Dave and I met because we were avid networkers, and we kept running into each other. We ended up in the same BNI group, and as you listeners know, I talk about Business Networking International often. And I'm still in. You're not in right now, right?
No, I'm not. I'd love to get back in. I just don't have a lot of time right now, but it is something that's on my radar that
I think as your business scales and you have maybe a couple more boots on the ground under you, because I know you're handling a lot of your sales still, which puts you out there.
Correct.
And that's hard to sacrifice a morning per week for that. And I
really
get
is.
it. But I think the world of BNI wants you. And so we're waiting for you to come back. But that's just me selling to Dave here. But in all seriousness, I mean, back then, you were hawking security systems.
Yep.
So, I've had this respect for you that you are somebody who can tolerate no like I've never seen. And you understood like the numbers behind what it meant to spend time in the field getting sales done. And I've always been a little envious of you in that respect because, I haven't had the time, doing what we do. So I think our lives have been different in that way because I've always owned my business. But you've had so much time in learning sales in the trenches, and I mean the deep, mucky trenches, that you have a perspective and a skill, habit, and set that is unique and valuable. So I wonder, can we go back in time? What did a day, what were you selling, and what did a normal day look like for you?
when I was with ADT. Is that what you're...
These are the ADT days. I think you've sold other stuff too, and there's a list there. Maybe we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, home security systems.
So when I started with ADT, it was kind of interesting. They offered a minimal salary. You come in, they're going to give you leads, and you go do these leads. And then you had to kind of find your own, they called them SGLs, so self-generated leads. So I was, all right, so I can do this. I got on board. And so immediately I could see, they'd give you this list of numbers to call. They were beat up lists. You'd call them, hey, I've been called 1,000 times, stop calling me kind of deal. It's like, all right, I get it. But, I always woke up, I think I told you over the phone, I used to live by this motto. I still live by it now. When you wake up in the morning, you got to eat a bowl of Cheerinos. I don't know where this came from, honestly. Well, I know where I heard it, but I don't know where that person got it from. So if I'm quoting someone that's pretty famous, I apologize. I don't mean to do it on purpose and not mention them. But the Cheerinos for me was, when you wake up, you got to understand that today you're going to go through a bowl of no's. And if you don't, then you're not going to get a sale, because in that bowl of no's, there's a yes somewhere. You just got to get through them. So when I started with ADT, I was going through this bowl of Cheerinos every day. I was going through all these lists, and I always told myself, don't try to reinvent the wheel. What they're doing obviously works in some aspect, but you can modify it, not reinvent it, but modify it. So what I would do is, of course, we'd go out and door knock, and I got to tell you, I was thinking about this today, and remember how you'd go out, and there's 5 of us that would go out door knocking, and we'd get there at 9 o'clock in a brand new community that's probably been door knocked, I don't know. It's been there 2 months. It's probably been door knocked 100 times easily. And it's all about right timing when you get there. But you're going to get a no. I mean, you're going to get, multiple no's. And a lot of folks there might be 2 solid ones that day, but there's 5 of us out there. So, that got old after a while, but I did it. I said, all right, I'm going to do what everyone else is doing. So, but what everyone else was doing wasn't making a great paycheck. They were making an okay one. So I tried to think outside the box a little bit, and what brought me to how I succeeded a lot better was I figured out that from a past experience, there are legal ways of finding, and I should put quotes in the air, it is a legal way to find information on people moving into homes, because everybody that moves into a home turns on their electricity and their water. So I called some of the municipalities in the area, able to get this information of when they turned on their water, and that's exactly what I did. And it would have phone number, address, everything. So I'd start calling. I was still getting the bowl of no's every morning, but that bowl of no's got smaller and smaller, and there were more yeses in there because I was getting there before anybody else. So that's really what kind of did really well for me in the beginning with ADT.
So it's interesting about right timing, because we've had roofers in BNIs, and they're door knockers frequently too, or they were. I know laws have changed a little bit, but they were wearing through sneakers, and there was this one kid, Wes. He was like, "Yep, I am." You remember Wes?
I remember.
Yeah,
Wes.
He was good.
He's a good guy.
Yeah,
yep.
And he was Mr. 30% maybe. And he didn't get yeses. Yeah. He knew out of 10 door knocks, he'd get 3 maybes, and out of the 3 maybes, he'd get 1 proposal.
Right.
And so then, he had, how many of those did he have to hit every week to hit his dollar quota?
Sure.
I think he needed 3 closed deals a week.
Yep.
So, having a proposal out, what's the close rate on a proposal? You got to hit a lot of homes.
Yep.
Get a lot of doors to even open.
Yep.
That was one of the things, too. He never talked about that, because he always started with the open doors. I don't know how many he knocked on that just never opened.
Yeah.
But, the fact that you were walking and realized that wasn't as fruitful, and you found a way to get in with the right timing is extremely unique. How long did you work that right timing angle?
Throughout my whole ADT career, it got a little bit more used because I think people caught on to what I was doing.
Sure.
I had some friends that I was trying to help out do a little bit better, so I remember passing out some of my lists. Now looking back, going, man, you shouldn't have done that. But it is what it is. I don't mind helping others, and that's exactly what I was doing. And we all did very well When we called those lists, I showed some other folks how to do it. It got you the same. You're still, instead of door knocking, and because like I said, we get there at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, which meant I was leaving my house around 7:30 because I was going to have to get breakfast. Didn't want to wake the wife on a Saturday, so we go out and door knock till 12 o'clock in that brutal heat in the middle of summer, and then by the time it was said and done, there might have been 2 doors that actually answered, and the rest of us, there's 5 of us, 3 of us didn't get anything, and that's only if no one else was out there door knocking with us, which we used to run into our competitors all the time. This would get us in front of them sometimes before they even got in the house, because you sometimes turn on your water before you move in, or you have it at least set up. And then on top of that, I had a phone number, so people were actually answering the phone because it was a different way of getting in the door. Same concept, you're still door knocking, but I can make phone calls a heck of a lot faster than I can make door knocks. But on top of that, I can call the right clientele that I'm looking for. It's kind of like, what do they say, that 80-20, spend 80% of your time doing what works and 20% of your time that doesn't. Is it? No, other way around.
Other way around.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, 80-20 keeps getting applied to all sorts of things.
Yeah,
so you spend 80% of your time on the 20% of the clients that are the most productive.
Right.
Like you hear it applied so many ways. Basically, economize on your efforts.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That worked really, really well for myself, and I did well at ADT while I was there.
So once you're into a conversation, and so you're the first person. Like everybody we've talked to so far has sales happening.
Sure.
But everybody's got such a unique angle on it.
Sure.
As John Tankersley.
Yep.
John's,
I love John.
Yeah, right. He's great. His sales angle is a completely different thing than what we're talking about right now.
Sure.
And then Rob Kurzreiter, who you know well. Yep. He's a realtor, and it's a different sales thing as well. And so I'm curious let's say the door's open or the phone has been answered. How do you sell a security system?
So I go back to my B&I days with this, believe it or not. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. If they don't know you, they don't like you. They don't like you, they don't trust you. They don't trust you, they darn sure aren't going to open up their checkbook or their checking account to you. So you have to... I use what's called the form factor. I again, can't remember where I heard all this stuff from, so I apologize if I'm quoting someone that
We're going to leave it to the audience to Google it later.
Yeah, they can figure it out.
It's fine.
It's family, occupation, recreation, motivation. So when I walk into a home, walk into a home, I'm trying to figure out what I can do to talk to them, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And for me, I want to get to know them, understand them. Where did you come from? Do you have family in town? A lot of these villagers where I work, they have people that, they're there because of friends and stuff like that. It's interesting. I actually ran into the gentleman. I can't remember his name, but he was the guy that helped build. It was either he helped build or he actually designed the solar panels on the actual shuttle that kept it from burning up in the villages. Yeah, so, and I actually sold him because I sat there and listened to his story, and he told me all about this stuff, and I was dumbfounded. I was like, oh my God, and sat there and chit-chatted with him. Absolutely loved the conversation. And it was like, at the end, I don't push. It's, hey, do you want me to write it up? And the guy was like, of course I do. And I'm like, okay,
That's awesome.
So that's kind of how I do it. I'm a big... try to get to know the person, try to understand who they are, why they're there, why they're having us here. I go in as I know you've probably heard it before, but I go as a consultant, not a salesperson. I can't stand trying to be sold. I can tell immediately when someone's trying to sell me on something versus someone's just trying to consult me on something. So
that's awesome. Well, I've been door knocked. I think a lot of people have been door knocked, and I think the MO for most people is being sold.
Correct.
Here's the facts, here's the figures, here's the obvious math why you should part with your money right now. Yep. And it's all done in an elevator pitch, so it's efficient.
Yep.
And then I shut the door. And though I've never taken you to be that guy, I knew you were again, I say call it wearing sneakers out. I mean, you're literally putting a lot of tread on the ground.
Right.
And I mean, the door knockers have this certain something that they're associated with. So to hear that you were taking, because I know how successful you were, so understanding that you were still taking that relational approach makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when you tell me that, I'm like, of course Dave would do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when we're matching that with success, I think that's an actionable learning for anybody that's watching our show, because again, our audience is people who are at least hunting for their own food.
Sure.
And if not, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Remembering to stay relational, remembering to build, even in the first interaction, something that is real.
Right.
Feels right. But I again, I was wondering if the ADT thing, like, did you have a script? Did they furnish you a script?
So actually, ADT does offer this. It's called the model sales call, and believe it or not, it works really well. But you have to use some form of, because if you just go in as a robot, hey, this is the script, let me go through it. At the end, I would say your close ratio is probably going to be 20-25% if you do just the minimum, which is basically, let me read that script verbatim, and you'll get, for when I say 25%, probably 20% really, out of the 5 homes you actually get into, you're only closing 20%. I easily closed 3 to 4 of those homes, so 60 to 80%, and it was more of, I didn't go in there with just a script. As soon as I walk in, now I wasn't, cheesy about it. Oh, check out your cabinet over here. I would try to, as we walk in, look at what they had in the house and try to use that as I was doing my sales pitch per se. A lot of times with ADT, I took it as an approach of, how can I help you? Why did you let me in the door? What is it you're trying to accomplish with me being here? Why did you, because obviously if you let me in the door, you want some sort of security. Why is that? And if I took that approach, along with the model sales call of, they had certain things you had to hit and say, as long as you did all that, a lot of times it was here's the option A, B, or C, which one do you want? And they would 9 times out of 10 pick one. So
that's amazing. So after the life of ADT, and of course we've known each other long enough that you've seen my business change, I've seen your choices change. I know you were spending a lot of time in Tampa in a couple of different businesses, and then you ended up in the shade world. And right. I'm wondering, because the products you were selling in pre-shades. He's got a shady career, by the way. Dad joke had to be said, right? Okay.
I'm a shady guy. What can
right, you were the most shady guy I know. But in all seriousness, I know you had the automated pizza machine company.
Yeah. And
then there was, of course, the lighting company that you were with briefly, and I know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which
that wasn't very long. So
yeah, and I remember. We'll pass that one by, because the pizza one to me was really interesting as well, because it was a completely different product than you'd ever sold. And I'm just wondering. So first of all, describe what this pizza product is once we get there, because it was just fascinating.
Yeah, it was really good.
But then on top of that, what is selling a business-to-business product look like for you? How did you handle that?
So I kind of approached it the same way. Listen, you're going to get no's. I don't care. I'm one of those, listen, if you tell me no, I'm probably going to ask you again just because. But that was how I did. I would call around to different chefs. So again, knowing your product, knowing your audience, knowing who you're trying to get into, I was going after hotels and different things like that. I will tell you now, we had some really, really high-end appointments, which I would have never thought I would. I got into the Ritz. Now, we didn't sell it, but I got in there. We got into Universal. We did sell that in some of those places. Disney, we actually had a huge opportunity at Disney, unfortunately. The pizza thing, the reason I was good at it, but I was bad at it. And what I say that is, I could get the appointments. That wasn't a problem for me. Calling around, getting to the right person, again, getting screamed at by what I like to call the guard dog or the secretary that's yelling at you saying, and I'm not saying secretaries are guard dogs, I don't mean that in a negative way, but the gatekeeper, maybe I call them guard dogs because they are what they are, but they're gatekeepers. They wouldn't let you get to the right person. That's what they're told to do, so they're doing their job. However, trying to get through that and getting to the right person, trying to figure out how to get to that right person using my business network that I know, asking people, hey, does anybody know? I did use Facebook to get in, to find the right people a lot, and it worked. Just trying to get to the right person. The challenge I ran into with that company is I think our prices were a little higher. There were other competitors they could get bigger pizzas, lower costs, and I don't even think that company's still around in this area.
No kidding.
So,
yeah.
and
you can't control price point.
I can't. I tried. Even at Disney. I mean, we had the in. We were at Disney. In fact, I worked with one of the distributors that worked with the. That's how I actually helped with the relationship with the distributor. The distributor got me into Disney.
Wow.
So it was a walk in the park if we could have hit their price point, and we couldn't. And I mean, it was a full-blown Italian pizza. It was made in Italy. It was a really, I loved them. I don't think I should mention the name because I don't know if they're still in business out here, and I don't want to talk any bad about them. But the price was a little higher, and unfortunately,
but the product sounds like it was great.
The product was great. It took 3 minutes to cook in this oven that we gave you. All you had to do was buy the pizza, and if you had, you had to have volume. So the whole point was for you to buy the pizzas from us, and then we would put the box where we wanted. One of the greatest ones we had was over near, if you know the old Nickelodeon. I don't know if it's still Nickelodeon, but the old Nickelodeon hotel. I don't know what it is now.
It's across from the Marriott World Center.
We had, I think it was 6 ovens there. We were killing it there. It was either 3 or 6. I mean, they were ordering thousands of pizzas. It was amazing, but. Again, competitor came in, they saw what we had, they replaced us, and it was a simple, hey, we're going to just switch over. So
yeah. Well, and the volume business, when you low cost, probably tight margins.
Yep.
I understand how competitive that gets, so I guess it makes sense. But it's interesting. There's some salespeople who only know how to sell in either business to consumer or business to business.
Right.
And it's just interesting that you took that transition and were able to transport those skills. Did you have any time to build that same rapport that you would do with the homeowner when you were working with some of these bigger businesses?
Yes and no. So sometimes, some of the chefs they're just so busy. It was, you got 30 minutes, show me. And so we would. And then really what was showing them is the taste. So here's the product, here's the taste, and then they would always say, okay, great, this is a great product, we really like it, give me a cost, and then we'll figure something out. And so I go back to my owner, say, hey, look, we got this appointment, we need to come up with a good cost for them. Sometimes they would tell me where we need to be, sometimes, and unfortunately when we came back with our cost, it was just a lot of times it was a no. But to get that time when I did, there was chefs that, I would be there for an hour and a half, and absolutely, I'd still build a rapport, but it really, in the business world, I'm not going to say that all of them work like this, but when you have a business that's not your business, I don't get to talk to the CEO who actually makes the decision. I get to talk to the chef that says, I like this product, I like this product. They don't always get to make the choices. Sometimes they do, but not always. So it was give or take, but the rapport wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't as important, but it wasn't as much, or it wasn't as important as it would be inside of a home, someone's home.
Yeah,
it's actually there
sense.
The CEO and CFO are sitting right in front of you, So.
Well, and I also wonder if, comparison between, and this is so weird to be comparing ADT, a business to consumer national brand, and pizza ovens with reasonably high-end rapid cook pizzas for commercial applications.
Yep.
But, you've got the ADT brand, which is known and understood nationally and internationally.
Right.
Being sold to people who are looking for trust and quality more than price.
Correct.
They're not going to be pinching pennies. Obviously, if ADT was 10x the competitor, that would be different. But they were always... Well, yeah, they're
not
generally,
always. They sometimes were.
Well, okay, but I've looked at the prices. You pitched me too.
Yeah.
So I've seen it, and the prices were fair. And now you go over to the pizza company, which I'm sure the prices were fair for the product, but they were competing in a world that was demanding a cost competition.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing because I think it's almost. If I were a salesperson, and I guess I am, my business is always selling something, we don't compete on price.
Right.
We compete on quality and whether it does or doesn't fit your need.
Right.
And I think that's an interesting comparison between your two earlier products that you were hawking.
Well, so when I went over to So we were over on the coast, and military base over there. I actually got an opportunity to get in there and show their chefs. They were excited about it, but again, came down to cost. But right across the street, there was a bar that was a really busy bar. Well, I say across the street, but down the road. I don't know exactly where they were at this point, but it was a good sized bar, and they had, a lot of clientele. I got to sit down in front of the business owner. So it really was talking to the right person, and his cook, we'll call him a cook.
Yeah.
The two of them in front of them built rapport, and it was a no-brainer. They bought right then and there. I didn't have to send a proposal. It was a, hey, here you go. Do you want it? And they were interested. So it really does come down to making sure you're in front of the right person. And of course, it depends on those global, or not global, but those higher end, bigger conglomerates. They are more worried about pennies. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then after pizza, I think you moved into the world of shades.
No, I started with a company called Black Hat. This was pre-COVID. So so I was I started Black Hat. So I was still trying to do the business-to-business thing. I really liked doing that. It was a lot of fun. It was a different beast in itself. So Black Hat, what we did was we went around and we sold our services to other sign companies. So like Richard Schwartz. So if they were to print, and I don't know if Richard actually prints the big vinyls, but I can't remember, so I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything bad, Richard. I can't remember. But the idea is, the big, we're talking 10 by 10 feet vinyls that have to go on these big walls. A lot of the companies that are smaller, their installer is the same person as their designer. So if I could go in there and say, hey, instead of taking your designer off of designing, which is where all your money's at, let our installers go put it up and let him keep working. And it worked really well. We were doing very well. We actually were getting into Orange County Convention Center.
Oh, wow. What a great contract.
I mean, it wasn't quite a contract. I had to get in there, but I could get in the door and I could walk the floors and talk to some of these guys. So we were kind of a side piece because they have their own, Orange County had their own design company that would go in and help, but they got busy. So, we'd be that side piece. And we were doing really well, and then COVID hit, and it was like, done. When Orange County closed its doors, I saw the writing on the walls. I was like, and then Black Hat closed the doors. So.
That makes sense. I mean, our business took a massive hit. Same thing. We were set up to serve 3 different very large conventions. I remember March 20th of 2020 having about $500,000 in cancellations.
Yeah.
And for a small business like ours, that's notable.
That's huge.
We weathered the storm, thank God. But so vinyl installation was out the door.
Yeah.
And
that's when I ran into the Shade Company.
The Shade Company. So you got a little shady. I like it. And you spent a lot of time in sales for the Shade Company before you decided to go for eventual ownership. So that one, if I've got my guess right, it sounds like you're, middle and higher tier products that you were selling. None of the cheapo stuff. Lowe's and Home Depot have the cheapos; they can have them.
Nothing wrong with their products. It's just I won't get into the. I will just say we have a custom product, and Lowe's and Home Depot, not so much. I mean, you can get some of it custom, but not as much as ours. So
right. Okay. So and were you back to door knocking and street walking?
No. Actually, it was kind of nice. They actually gave us appointments, which was kind of interesting.
Oh, that's great.
But I had to go to the house and sell it. And so again, I'm back to my days of knock door. Hey, folks, how y'all doing? I'm here, and I'd come in and we'd sit down, have a conversation, and again, one of the first things out of my mouth was, I should say, I always tried to build a little bit of rapport. They actually wanted me there in the first place, so it was much easier to build that rapport instead of just getting right into the conversation. Because I think a lot of salespeople, they run into and I've done it myself, and I have to catch myself sometimes. You walk in and it's like, all right, let's go right for the kill, and let's go right to, hey, all right, let's talk about shades. Instead of walking in and, hey, folks, how y'all doing? Great. Just kind of, I like to, excuse my term, I like to shoot the shit with them, get to know them a little bit. And I'll ask them, where y'all from? How long have you been here? You're in a brand new home, or you're in a home that's, a little older. Have you been here longer? So you just come up with some good questions to ask. And then I usually try to take the approach, and I have to be careful doing this because they do have, believe it or not, villagers are busier than you and I are. I kid you not, retired, they have schedules that are ridiculous. They have golf tee times, they have pickleball times, all this stuff, they have to be there, which is fine. I can't wait to be there one day. But I try to be the last person to mention shades before we get started. So I try to spend the time to let them talk to me, get them opening up to me, and then a lot of times someone will go, all right, so we're here for shades, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And yeah, let's start talking about shades. And then the first thing out of my mouth at that point is, what are y'all trying to accomplish? I already know what they want, but I've fallen into, and a lot of salespeople do, I already know what you want, so let me tell you what you need.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you could do, I think, in my field specifically, but in general in sales. What are you trying to accomplish? You tell me what you want from me, and how can I help you? And that's how I do it. And from that, it's been great.
So, are you allowed to talk about sales numbers? I mean, how were you doing? How many thousands of dollars could you sell in a month of shades when you were doing this?
My highest month was $290,000.
$300,000 in shades.
Yep. And most of them were $200 to $250 when I was there.
Wow.
So yeah, it gets busy out there. So our shades weren't overly priced. It's just we had a lot of appointments, and like I said, my close ratio is pretty good. So, and not to toot my own horn or anything, but
yeah, well, I got you on this show because I know you can sell.
I'm a 10%.
You're also a business owner.
10% close rate. No, I close probably 70-80% of our leads, and
okay.
We get 20 a week, 25 a week. So
okay.
It's not bad. And I would say our average sale right now is $5-6 grand. That's average. I mean, I just quoted one for $40,000 and another one for 25. So, it's not out of the ordinary. My largest sale was $95,000 so far. So, and that was all Hunter Douglas, believe it or not. So it was a good big sale, big home. Lady I loved her. She was amazing. So
that's cool. All right. So for people who are following along here, his close ratio is 70 to 80%. That's something to listen to. This is why this guy's on the show right now, because you get the privilege of hearing how he does it. And the number one takeaway right now is spending time to build rapport so that you can go ahead and move into a conversation about what they actually want to accomplish. And that's been 3 for 3 on your sales stories. It's really about what they want,
yeah,
and the fact that they can trust you because they've built some rapport. So close ratios like his are enviable. I don't have that close ratio, and I'm pretty adept at sales, and I think it's just wonderful. So you spend a lot of time in the trenches there, and I remember talking to you. I don't know, this is probably about 2 years ago maybe, where you're like, I think I want to buy into this business.
Mm-hmm.
The owner was aging a little bit, and maybe it was time for him to be done, harvest the business. I don't know the whole story, and I'm not sure that we need that part of the story, but I loved that because I believe in you so much. I was like, yeah, finally, he's going to do it. He's going to own the business. What happened?
Oh, what a long story. I'll try to shorten it though. So when I found out he was trying to actually sell the business, he had put it up for sale. I can't get into the details of why, because one, it's just disrespectful to do.
Sure.
The man that hired me, he was the owner, and my interview went extremely well and it was because of him I got the job. So, because he was in on it, and he was just like, what are we waiting for? Let's hire this guy. So, which was very, humbling on my end. But him and his family were going through some challenges, and they decided to put the business up for sale.
Sure.
And
it's a very common story, actually.
Correct, yeah. And unfortunately, he did that before he told me about it. And he had it out there. He wanted quite a bit of money for it. And I was doing my best to kind of figure out how to do that. Then something unfortunate happened to him, and I think at that point he just didn't care anymore. He just wanted out, and I'm not upset with him about it. I think he had, I don't know the whole backstory, but he had already found 2 guys who were young and hungry just like myself. I'm like 40, I'm still young.
I'm in the 40s and I'm still young too.
Young.
I mean, Tony over here in the room,
sure.
he's like 31, and I'm just choosing to think of him as a baby because that leaves me as just a teenager.
Still hungry. So, but they beat me to the punch. More power to them. But they really had no experience in in shades at all. Didn't know anything about them, and I kind of went to them and said, "Hey guys, let me be a partner with you. I know more about shades than you guys even dream of. For the last, years, I've been, eating, breathing, and sleeping shades. It's all I know at this point. All I know, or I'm really good at, I should say. And I said, make me a partner. I'll come up with a third. You let me know. I was interested in buying this business too. I get it. They had family. They were bringing in a ton of family. They asked me to train their wives. And I was just like, guys, no, I'm not gonna put them in a position where you no longer need me. So at that point, I kind of said, all right, we're gonna do our own thing. So I did, and I put it all together. And the person that is my business partner, I have 2 of them. One of them, Mike Statska, you might know him. He's
I don't know.
Good friend of mine. He used to be a realtor. Him and his wife, been family forever. And then my op manager, who's a huge part of this business. Without Josh, I would not be able to run this because he knows the back end where I know the front end. So the 2 of us work really well together, and Mike's kind of my, for lack of a better word, silent partner. But I went to him and I said, hey, he's very loyal. I really didn't even want to bring it to his attention, but I happened to hear him I overheard a conversation. He was very unhappy with things that were going on. I said, hey, let's go have a dinner, a lunch. Let's go chat. Lo and behold, we decided this was going to be us, and so we did. We moved forward and we opened it up, and things are going well so far.
Okay, so let's dissect this a little bit, because that was the shortest version of I opened a business that I may have ever heard, other than saying I opened a business.
Yeah.
And so we've got 2 business partners.
Yep.
I have no clue where the money came from yet, and you probably can't tell the whole story, but hold on, I got more questions, and I'm going to give you just free rein in a second here.
Sure.
This is the type of business that you don't do out of a basement. Not that Florida has them.
No.
But so you need a location asset.
Yep.
You need vehicle assets.
Yep.
You need stock.
Yep.
You need to have relationships with vendors. You need to have a flow of potential business so you can take meetings and go sell and then execute on this.
Yep.
How many installers do you have?
We have 2.
You have 2 installers. How many salespeople do you have?
Just me right now.
I thought so. Yep. So you're the salesperson. So you're front end. Josh is back end, and Mike is the cheerleader.
Pretty much.
Okay, which is that's a great relationship.
And we have our own what do you call it? Gatekeeper.
You have a gatekeeper. So you have your secretary, office manager who knows everything type thing. Okay, cool. This is a lot that just came out of, I'm going to start a business because I'm not happy here. So what does it look like to say that and go to people and say, I got a vision, I've got the skills, I think if you bring X to the table, we can do this. Like, tell me the story.
So before I did all this, the first people I needed to contact was the vendors, because without them, I don't have anything, So I called Finitex. Craig Scott over there, I called him, said, hey, remember me? He goes, oh yeah. Last year I sold over $2 million in shades for the other company. And so
people are going to remember that.
And I went to him and I said, hey, you remember me? He goes, oh yeah, Dave, I loved you. What's going on? And so we sat there and chit-chatted, and I said, well, I'm thinking about doing this. He goes, oh man, I'll back you 100%. So I said, okay. I said, so I've got that handled. And then I called Universal, and we're not talking about theme parks, by the way. But I called Universal and talked to Doug, and he was on board. He was like, yeah, he says, let's do this. Doug and Sal. I think I talked to Sal first, but it doesn't matter. The point is they were on board. I knew what I could get and bring to the table with them. And then, believe it or not, the biggest one I was concerned about was Hunter Douglas. Technically, I say this, I didn't need them, but I wanted them because they are a high-end, their name is amazing, and their products are out of this. I mean, you get 25-year warranties on a lot of this stuff. It's amazing. So I absolutely wanted Hunter Douglas on board. So I called the rep that I knew, and she said, yeah, let's have a conversation about it. So the three of those vendors that we have, and excuse me, I forgot to mention Town & Country. I apologize. We called them as well. Town & Country is who we do our garage door shades with. And Ryan over there was like, heck yeah, Dave, let's do it. So between the 4 of those vendors, once I had them, to me, the rest of it was just finding a location, which, I mean, I just got online and found something. I found something fairly close to where, believe it or not, we're right down the road from my old competitor.
Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
But you were trying for that. You were trying for
I was just trying to get close to the Villages area, to be honest with you, because that's where a lot of our business comes from. So I wanted to be closer. I'm trying to stick with that 80-20 rule. They are our ideal candidate, someone that's retired that actually uses their lanai, or just someone in general that uses their lanai a lot. You'll come to find out there that lanai tends to be their number one spot to stay. So we make it more comfortable for them. And that's why they use us. But so, I had to find that, and I found a realtor that did nothing but commercial properties. He showed me this property. I fell in love with it. I said, yep, that's it. So we got all that squared away. Believe it or not, we tried to go through the loans. I'm not a big believer of having too much money. So, unless it's my own.
Right. No, I got
right.
That.
So I don't need to have this big debt behind me. But the guy that we went to, $500 million loan that you need. And I'm like, no, we don't. I don't need that. So between myself and Mike, we funded it ourselves, and, been going pretty well. So.
Wait, so this is self-funded privately with the 3 partners?
Had to. So.
I think that's a very rare story, to be honest, because I think most people are sent straight to a bank that can at least, put an SBA loan in.
Yeah, we were looking at a $5 million loan, or excuse me, $500,000 loan, not million, sorry, $500,000 loan, and I just felt like that's too much. We don't need it.
If you know your numbers, you know your numbers.
I knew what we really needed. So we were able to do it for way less than that. And I mean, it was kind of, as soon as we hit the ground, I mean, we were starting to get sales immediately. So for us, it was kind of like we just kept moving forward. It's like we didn't even skip a beat.
Okay, so this is like the fear moment for me on your behalf is the sales thing, because now you've got deals in place, you've got people who need to eat and pay their own family mortgage and the car payment, and kid needs new pair of shoes type thing.
Yep.
All of that's real, so you've got to have some cash flow to get this dream into a reality. Your previous business was supplying leads. Where you had been, so you were going and taking sales calls.
But I knew where they were getting those leads. How
are you getting leads, and how are you getting money so fast? I mean, this is an impressive turn.
So I say this with all due respect. I followed their business model prior to who they are today. So because my previous, I want to call him owner, mentor, he really did teach me a lot. And I basically want to be him. And so I did exactly what he did. So some of our leads, it's very little online, believe it or not. It's more, again, trying to work smarter, not harder, figure out where your leads, where your best leads are going to come from. Older people read the newspaper all day long. And so we advertise in the newspaper. There's one out there, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say it's called Daily Sun. They're huge out there. They advertise to everyone. There's another one that we use, which is really neat. A lot of that marketing is just, people read stuff.
Yeah.
So we do that. A lot of word of mouth. So I'm still getting phone calls from my past days, and I'm very upfront with the customers when they call me, say, hey, look, I don't work there anymore. I've started my own. I know I was a good referral. I'll give you the option. You can still go to them, or you can use us, one way or the other, or we'll call them and get a quote from them too. Either way, I try to be upfront about it. A lot of times it's, no, Dave, we want to use you, so okay. But there's nothing that's I would say it's not a lot of rocket science. It's just trying, again, like I did with ADT, try to find your best possible way of getting in front of people. And for us, it is the newspaper. It is marketing that way. We have we do shows, all kinds of stuff. So the home shows and things like that we get involved with. So that's it. Just getting in front of the right audience and the right way, I guess. Is maybe.
And your audience is still paper based.
Yep. So.
Yeah, and that's in our business, we're always advising our clients. I'm like, hey, there's so many social media outlets out there, but your ideal client is going to spend different brain space in different social media places. And LinkedIn is a place for business thinking.
100%.
And somebody who has a LinkedIn probably has a Facebook as well.
Yep.
But if we're going to have a business conversation, you need to come up with a theory as to how to approach that. And if it's a very friendly, slow nurture, maybe you can do it on Facebook. But if it's a little bit more direct,
right,
you better probably have that on LinkedIn. Otherwise, it could be kind of a fart in church.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, something else we've done seemed to have worked so far. So going back to my B&I days, I do like networking still. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite things to do. And the only thing I will tell you as a networker, don't go hand your card out to every single person you talk to. Don't do that. Doesn't mean they're going to do business with you and you're wasting your money. But the folks that you really can get in touch with and know and get to like, those are the people that you want to exchange information with. But with that said, again, trying to be in my clientele, the people that are dealing with, so designers, interior decorators, I have no problem calling them, getting their information. When I tell them we sell Hunter Douglas, there's a lot of fees. I shouldn't say a lot of fees. There's a lot that you need to do to be a Hunter Douglas rep, and some of that costs money up front. A lot of the interior decorators don't want to do that. They don't want to lug around all those books. So what we do is we offer a program. You come in, you can use our showroom, you can use our books, you bring your client, and we'll sell it. So, and it works really well.
That's awesome. So, yeah, so you really know where your leads are coming from then.
Yep.
That's and of course it sounds like you have been so well trained with your mentor that you knew this going in.
Yep, I knew exactly where to get them. And it's the only thing we are still having an issue with is our Google. That is something that we're trying to. We will have it fixed soon. It's just I was excited and I started my Google business before we actually had a location. I didn't realize how bad of a swing that was.
Yeah.
So we're fixing it, but it'll be fixed soon. So.
Yep, yeah. And I think your story is pretty common. I've seen so many people struggle. And honestly, one of the biggest problems with that Google verification system is the darn little postcard with the verification code that you're waiting for.
I never got it.
It never seems to show up.
Yeah.
And it has taken, like our previous location for our business, that darn thing took like 10 shots at it before I finally got it.
Yeah.
And I found out that a neighbor was getting it and going, oh, I don't want Google to sell me anything. And they thought it was for them and they're throwing it away.
Well, mine was probably going to a location that at the time wasn't available. So I get it. Immediately they suspended and we're working on it.
I know you'll get it fixed.
It'll be fixed.
And what's great is right now, you don't need it because you are thriving and selling and growing, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yep.
So one of the things that I was thinking about is that it's interesting that you were so well trained by your predecessor and you've moved on and you're basically, you're using his mentorship to help grow this. It's not a new business model, it's an existing business model. And I think there's a lot of people out there who when they start a business feel like they have to have the newest business model out there. And that's probably not true. It's existing business models exist and work for a reason, and copying what works makes a heck of a lot of sense. Yep. Learn from somebody who's already done it. Yep. And then, another thing that it strikes me, and this might be a bit of a thorn in the side of the existing owners of their previous businesses, treat your salespeople so well. Because it dawned on me, you built
being a competitor.
Right. Well, you built the relationships.
Yep.
And of course, and this is going to be a thing that you're going to have to deal with too as you scale and you bring on salespeople.
100%.
They're going to build the relationships, and so customer relationship management is, for the longevity of your business, going to be something you have to unlock and figure out. Because if you don't manage that relationship in a way where your salesperson isn't their only point of contact, then you do risk that if that salesperson leaves for any reason, good or bad, that you have lost rapport.
Right.
And the moment you lose rapport, it can be very hard to get it back.
Well, and full disclosure, if he still owned that business, we'd be having a whole different conversation. I probably would still be there. It wasn't him the reason I left. The reason I left is because the new folks moved in.
Right.
And they were making changes that, again, kind of going back to exactly what you were just talking about, why break something that's already working really, really well?
And maybe they figured out something, and a couple years down the road, the business will look different and be thriving. We can give them that grace that maybe that's a thing. But why fix what's not broken? Expanding on it, doubling down on it,
or modifying a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But like I said, if he still owned it and it was still going the way that it should be going, I would be there still. If he was still the owner. So I take nothing away from him. He was a great mentor. Absolutely love the man. Respect him. Just unfortunately, I feel like he might have made the wrong decision on ownership, but that's...
Well, I count it a massive blessing for
anymore.
you that it's gone this way.
Yeah.
Because now you are in an ownership position. I will say that knowing your character, I already see that you're going to be an excellent boss and a great leader. So, it's just, you spend enough time with somebody to watch them and observe how they operate. You get a feel for who they are, and people feel important around you. And that right there is enough to say it's safe to work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it works.
I think it does work too. Are there have you thought of any lessons through this that you're like, oh yeah, you know what, if somebody's going into sales or they're starting a business, they at least should know this. Is there anything that's just kind of top of mind like that? Because we've hit a lot of points.
I would say just don't go into sales. Everybody wants to make money. I know that for a fact.
Yes.
Not excluding, present company, but don't go into it thinking that. Go into it thinking you're there to help, you're there to consult, you're there to be that customer's friend, for lack of better words. I mean, there are customers that still call me today asking me, how are you doing, and things like that. And if you go in with that mindset, in the past, we've all seen the movies, what is it? Boiler Room. We've seen, The Wolf of Wall Street. We've seen, all these.
Glenn Ross.
Oh God, all these beautiful, well-made movies that are absolutely great sales movies. But I think the way they portray salespeople is wrong in the aspect of you really should go in there as a person that cares. The more you care, the more they're willing to buy from you. The less you care, the more they see that, and the less they're willing to buy from you. So I feel like if you're going to get into that position, you better have, one movie I used to love. So I'm going to curse a little bit. I apologize, but not too much.
Okay.
There was an Iron Eagle movie. If you remember Iron Eagle, Chappie Sinclair, when he goes, "Don't you talk to me like that. I give a shit," or something like that. I don't remember the exact, but he was telling the young kid, because he was telling him, "I don't care. That's how I have to go in. It's like, I give a shit. This is not a, let me just go in and see what kind of paycheck I can get out of it. It's, I want to go in there. I want to try to accomplish what they want and more if that's necessary. And I know when I leave, they're going to be super happy that they saw me and then they move forward with me versus, man, I wish that guy had never shown up. Man, we spent all this money and it doesn't even do what we wanted it to do.
Right.
I don't want to have that. So
yeah, and that's a great way to extend customer life cycle too. Is go from transactional to relational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had customers. I walk in and we walk out with a $700 check. I'm going to say that it's very small for us. I don't mean to. It is. It's small. It's one or two shades max. But that same customer down the line, because we took care of them and they got what they wanted, refers us to the $10,000 or $20,000 sale that we get down the line. Especially out in the villages, man, they do this stuff called talk to each other a lot. Oh my God, they do. And they even created something called the Talk of the Villages, which is scary as could be because I've seen it blackball companies right on out of the villages.
Wow.
But the way I look at it is it keeps good companies honest and it keeps bad companies out of the villages. So it's one of those. If you go in there with that mentality, you won't be there very long. And even with Nextdoor out there now, Facebook, people can complain about you very easily, and it will show. So if you go in there with a caring attitude, I'm not going to sit here and say that every single customer is going to love us, but you'll get a lot more smiles and happiness and referrals out of caring versus not. So.
That's awesome. Well, Dave, I can't thank you enough for coming over here. This has been
My pleasure.
Everything I expected and then some. I wanted us to learn about sales and then really experience how you got into the entrepreneurship thing. Because I think there's a lot of salespeople out there who go, yep, someday I'm going to own the business. And that may or may not happen, but seeing one version of it turning into, you own a very similar business to the original business, and I think that there's a lot of stuff that we can take away for other salespeople who are out there who have that dream. So again, you're watching Bootstrapped Unicorns. I'm your host, Josh Pies. This is my amazing guest, Dave Shufelt. Now, if you don't have shades in your home and you're on the north side of Orlando, the northwest side of Orlando, over where the villages in Ocala are up there. Heck, if your horse needs shades in the barn up in Ocala, whatever you need, Shade Masters USA can get that to you. You're going to actually meet the owner, Dave, and his team will take care of you. Let me just say this: I've never seen one of his shades because I haven't been out to his shop yet. I'll fix that. Okay. But I do know where the quality starts, and that's with the ownership. And Dave is a quality human who I trust. He can have the keys to my house. He can have my bank book. I know everything's safe in his hands because he's a good human, and he really does care. So if I can't say anything more than I trust this guy, and if you want shades, I think you can trust him too. With that, I'm Josh Pies. The next episode is going to be a blast. We're going to have Steve Gunter on. He is the proprietor. You know Steve?
I do.
All right, yeah. Steve is the proprietor at the Tap Room at Dubs Dread Golf Course, and he does a lot of other stuff too. He's also reasonably unfiltered, so don't watch the next episode with your kids. I'm just foreshadowing that we're going to go some places that probably are at least PG-13. And with that, I'll see you on the next episode.